Functions are reusable blocks of codes that perform specific tasks that simply help you to break down your codes into simple chunks that you can use repeatedly without having to write them again. By using functions in Godot Visual Scripting, you can do three things. One, you can organize complex logics into manageable chunks. And two, you can reuse code and reduce duplication. And the third thing is that you can improve the readability and maintainability of your Visual Script. Now, let's talk about how it works. First, let's talk about the inbuilt functions. Godot Orchestrator provides built-in functions like the ready, process, and physics process function. These can be used directly in the Visual Scripting for different purposes. Now first, let's create a function and see how it works. Now I'm going to create a new script and I'm going to call this script function. I will make sure that here is my orchestrator and I'll go save my script in my scripts. Now I can just create it. Now let's create a function. To be able to create the inbuilt function, we're going to be coming later to the normal functions that we can be able to create ourselves, our own customized functions. But now let's work on the inbuilt functions. To use the inbuilt functions, you can be able to click here to override them. By clicking here, you can be able to get the ready function. You can also be able to get the process function. And lastly, we're going to also talk about the physics process. There are other functions that you can be able to use, but these functions are inbuilt functions that come with Godot, and we can be able to use them for a few things. Now let's talk about the things we can use them for. The ready function is called when the node is initialized and each children have been added to the scene tree. It's a one-time function that runs after the node is fully set up. You can use it when you're doing things like initialization and setting up of variables or performing a one-time calculation. The process function itself is called every frame as fast as possible. Ideally, you can use it when you are doing something that doesn't require physics. Now, you can use it for updating non-physics related logic such as your animations, your UI updates, or a game logic that doesn't require precise timing. But then the physics process function is called every fixed frame rate. You can use it when you're updating physics related logic such as character movement, collision detection, and rigid body dynamics. So basically, when you want to do things that will be trying to mimic real time, you need to use the physics process. Basically, these are different functions we're going to be using, and we're going to be using some of these things right now. So right now, you can be able to delete any function you don't want to use from here. Now I'm going to go ahead to delete these ones. Right click on them and just delete them. They will always appear in your event graphs, okay? Any function you create. Now I'm going to just drop this here. Now this function gets called once I start my game. It's going to be called and it's going to execute whatever is there. So let me go and create a variable that will display just like we did in the last video. We can be able to do a particular thing. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to get name. I'm going to create a variable called name, and the value I'm going to say Steven. I can leave this as not exported. I can get this and I can just drop this here. Once I click and drag this in here, I can be able to set the variable or get the variable. So I can get the name variable, and I can also right click and I will type right click and type print. So you can also be able to print on your console. So if I click on this, I can be able to click. Now let's play this game and see what happens. So once this is played, you see that every time it's always displaying Steven in my console here. But if I used the ready function for this, it's going to do something a bit different. Now it gets to actually do it just once. But then when I use the physics process, it just keeps calling it again because it's called at every frame of the game. Now let's go and create our own customized function. So over here, you can be able to create your own functions, and I'm going to create a function called display. Now you are going to see this function here and not in the event graph. So these are my custom functions I'm going to be using. So I want to be able to display this name on my screen just like I did in the variables. But this time around, I'm going to be doing different things right now. So I will be displaying different things. One, I'm going to click here and I'm going to also create that of age. And I'm going to change this to an int and change this to, let's say, 50. Now I have two variables that I'm going to be using. So I want to be able to create two different functions that do two different things. So now the first one is the display, and I'm going to also create another one. I'll call it my display age. Display age. So I have this. So if you double click on this one becomes active. So let's display the name first. Let me right click and rename it also to display name. So once I get my display name, I want to display the name. So I want to display it here. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to go back to my Orchestrator and I will drag this from here down to set text. And I'm going to put this here. And I'm going to get the name and drag this here and get the value. And I'll put this here and then drag this to this place. So this is for my display name, and this function just displays the name on that particular screen. And then I'll also go for the display age, and it's also a different function, and I can be able to select this second one and go to my Orchestrator and drag this in here and then set the text, and also drag this my age, bring it in here and get the value of the age. Now I can set the value of the age here and then make sure that the function is being connected to this place. Now for me to be able to play this, I can be able to just come back here. Now remember, we can be able to use a physics process if we want it to keep on repeating itself, but if we want it to display once, we can be able to use this particular one. So now, instead of going to write different codes for the display, and then we'll have to write this again for getting this, and then getting that for your age and for your name, like we did in the other script. For this script here, we had about 2 of it here. All right. So instead, we can be able to just simply delete these ones, and we're going to just get display and just drop it here and display name, and we can just put it here. So right now, imagine if this was a block of different things, like we have a lot of codes in here. All you're going to be using in this your ready function here, or this physics process here, it's just this particular one here. So now I have my ready function and I just have display age and display name. Now we can be able to run this, and it displays our name and also our age over here. And that is what we have used this, because we can use the ready function to initialize. But if you are going to be changing the value of, let's say for example, this is the score of the game, and you want it to be increasing as you are progressing in the game, it's advisable you use your physics process, okay? Because it's going to be updating itself every particular frame of the game. Because if you use ready function for such things, once it does it for the first time, it's not going to update it again. So even if you are increasing the scores for your game, it will not be increasing. So it's advisable that you use things like your scores, use physics process for them, and also movement for your character. Now we have this. So if we want more complex things, let's say for example, we're going to create a new function. And I'm going to create a function that does some calculations. So I'm going to call this display calc. Now I have my display calc. So I'm going to right click now. And I'm going to get my multiply. So I want to get this for integer. Let me go down to where I have my integers here, and I'm going to get multiply here. I'm going to get my age and drag it in here. and put this here and say multiply by 5. Now we're going to be talking about the maths operators later in more details. So I'm going to put this here and then I'll right click and bring in my print. And I can put this in here. So imagine if we did a very complex mathematical equation and something very complex, we can literally be able to do all those things together. Now, if we go back to our main code here in the physics process here, we can simply be able to drag this in here and just plug it in here. So we'll have different codes that are doing different things in the functions, but then we are just displaying here. Okay, right now I can be able to just right click and I'm going to play. And now if you come in here, you see that the 250, 5 times my 50 is here, is giving me 250 and it's continuously printing itself. And that is how you can be able to use your functions. So you can use your functions to do multiple things, and you can be able to have multiple functions in your game, and they will all be doing different things. So even if I want to reuse this, even in this place, I can always drag in a function, and this function represents a block of code. So this could be a huge amount of codes that do maybe update the life of the player, or maybe give you update on something in your game. This one will actually be the easy way to be able to do that, because the function is just in the chunk here. It's just a block you're actually seeing here, but if you actually go into it, you actually see that it has more inside it. So this is how you can use functions in Godot Orchestrator Visual Scripting. If you have any question, you can put that in the comments. And if there's something I didn't cover about functions, you can put it in the comments and I'll make maybe another video, maybe function part 2, and cover that too. If you like my videos, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.